Here's another video on jumping spiders. Good morning, viewers. Today I'll introduce a spider that looks like this. Cute, right? Actually, it's not that impressive. It really looks like this. This is the same female whose macro shot you saw a second ago, and I think some of you might recognize this spider, especially by its appearance, because it has a very distinctive look. This, my dear friends, is a jumping spider, but it's not just any ordinary jumping spider. I already have experience with jumping spiders, both personally and on this channel. I've recorded quite a few videos about them, but usually those videos featured only one species, and it wasn't this species. Maybe that's wrong, yeah. So far in my videos, I've mainly featured one species of jumping spider, and that was the regal jumping spider, which is the most popular species of jumping spider in captivity. Because of its appearance, because of its coloring, because it's considered the cutest spider in the world. It's also easy to find and fairly cheap. You can get a juvenile for just a few dozen zlotys, which is nice. We've got a jumping spider. Look, Paweł, look, it jumped onto my face. Actually, she did, because it's a female. What a little buddy. That's how far she can jump from my face, so now I have a rough idea of her jumping range. Such an adorable creature, watch out. She's trained that way, and honestly, there's no point pretending otherwise. Royal jumping spiders really do attract breeders because of their, for example, colorful chelicerae, which shine especially in males. They're beautiful, shiny, and so on. No, Hops. Today isn't about the royal jumping spider. This is a different jumping spider species. What is this? It's one of the world's largest jumping spiders. Yes, this little one is one of the largest species we can find on our planet. And I'm not joking. But before we get to the spider itself and what it can do, I'll outline the plan for this episode. Since this little spider needs a new home, I took her to Exotica and brought her in. Where is it? Oh, I wouldn't want to keep her in a container like this since it's ugly. Here you can still see her nest remains, so this container will be thrown out. This jumping spider will live in this terrarium. By the way, this is the terrarium I mentioned before, and this terrarium is a kind of work of art. It is made to the millimeter, very detailed. And it's perfect for this spider because of a certain feature it has. But more on that in a moment. To put this spider in here, we first have to evict the current resident that's living here now. And that will also be part of this video, so first I'll show you where it is. Oh, here it is. First, let's introduce this lady. She's kind of... Oh, right. First we'll introduce the jumping spider, then we'll move the other spider out, and finally we'll put her into the new terrarium. Here's an important piece of information. If anyone ever asks whether these jumping spiders bite, the answer is yes, they do. Just a moment ago, she boldly bit the tip of my finger, but it didn't hurt. I mean, I don't even have a mark because, you know, these are the kind of spiders that have a hard time even piercing human skin. But she still bit my finger. What a nasty little witch. First of all, let's start with what his name is. This jumping spider is called Hyllus diardi, and as far as I know, it lacks a Polish name. However, it is part of the Hyllus genus, which has around 70 species worldwide. Interestingly, the Hyllus genus is also found in Europe, such as Greece. We may encounter one species, but this is mainly a genus of tropical spiders. They are mostly found in Africa, and many of them can be seen, for example, in Madagascar. But some of them are also found in Southeast Asia, among other places in Southeast Asia. This species is also found there, and its range includes Laos, Burma, Indonesia, and others. So, it's a typical tropical region, and that's something to keep in mind as well. If we keep such a jumping spider, it means we need to provide it with the right conditions so it can live as it should, healthy and for a long time. Since it's a jumping spider, logically, it will have all the features that define this family of spiders, and the family is called Saltitidae, or jumping spiders. That's true. First, these spiders jump to hunt and get around. Here's an interesting fact. I'll show you, because I managed to record its jump, actually her jump, in slow motion, and this recording perfectly shows that always, absolutely always, during such a jump. The jumping spider has something called a safety thread, because like all other spiders, it spins a thread. But it doesn't use them to build structures like orb weavers do with their circular webs between bushes. Jumping spiders use it for a completely different purpose. First, to make themselves a nest, and second, as a safety line, and this safety line is always released. It's just a thread on the surface, now stretched between my fingers. And when the jumping spider makes a jump, there is always such a thread stretched out behind it. Here it is, and now I see it between my fingers. Honestly, I doubt you'll be able to see it. It should be more visible against a black background. So, jumping spiders jump. That's pretty obvious. Another distinctive feature of jumping spiders is their eyes. Especially those two pairs that stare at us and appear in nearly every jumping spider photo online. The eyes are probably the most iconic feature of these spiders. It's the eyes that give them that, let's call it, intelligent look. It's the eyes that make them seem more like plush toys rather than, I don't know, some arthropods or some spiders or some kind of disgusting creatures. Because if we compare, for example, a house spider and a jumping spider, the jumping spider definitely looks friendlier, and that's all thanks to its eyes. Additionally, since we're talking about how cute they are, these jumping spiders, specifically female Hyllus diardi, have something that gives them an even more comical appearance. These are small hair tufts sticking out from the sides of their cephalothorax. And it looks a bit like they have either tiny horns or funny little eyelashes. It looks hilarious, really. If we take a close look at the front of such a jumping spider, the animal is simply unique, really standing out among other spiders. Kumate, look, I'll show you. See, how simple, right? Maybe it's not exactly training a jumping spider, but what other spider would do that for me? If anyone is waving their hands right now, here's one more piece of information. If you're interested in keeping jumping spiders, here are 2 pro tips. First, it's better to buy a bigger jumping spider rather than a smaller one. First of all, a smaller jumping spider is just that, smaller. It's tiny. And secondly, smaller jumping spiders are much more sensitive to potential mistakes made by keepers. A big jumping spider is actually not difficult to keep at all. You just need to mist the enclosure, feed it, and it will live. And how long does it live? Well, it's said that a female will live about 2 or 3 years, while a male a bit less. So for spiders, that's actually quite a lot. Second pro tip, if you want to keep exactly this kind of spider, meaning a female of this species, then you have to be prepared for a certain cost. Yes. And in this case, I bought this spider for 450 zlotys. Whether that's a lot or a little, everyone has to decide for themselves. Well, in my opinion, it was worth it. Just take a look for yourselves. The fact is that because these spiders aren't very available and are actually much rarer spiders, like royal jumping spiders, for example, that also impacts the price. Unfortunately, now we'll put her aside and do it in a way so she gets off of this. Come down. Okay, good. Be careful here, because there's always a thread trailing behind her. So we can't just, for example, if we put her on the ground, in this case on the desk, we can't just take our finger away right away, because we'll just pull her along with us. So be careful about that again. Now what do we need? We'll need this container, because the current occupant of this terrarium will end up here. We need a piece of cork, some little things. Hey spider, don't go here, and tools, and a few other little things. Maybe we should pack her up to avoid hurting her. That's what I threw out. Oh, okay. Okay. And come here. Well, there. We're going there. Handling the jumpers with one hand. That's a nightmare. Seriously, I'm going there. Go there. Whew, I made it. I definitely need this terrarium because there's going to be fun and chasing here. I have a feeling, all right, let's get this show on the road. First, let's prepare this container for the new inhabitant, and here is a container with prepared coconut fiber. So we just do it like this. By the way, another interesting fact about these jumping spiders is their pronounced sexual dimorphism. What you saw, all of that is a female. The males look completely different. They're much less, let's say, charming, and they look scarier. Additionally, they have huge chelicerae, especially when they're adults. So they're 2 entirely different spiders. A famous video of a male Hyllus spider comes to mind. I'll show it here. Yes, this is the male for that female, assuming they're the same species. Since there are many large species and males can vary a lot, I have a female and we're working with her here. That's done. Now we do this and the new spider's home is ready. Ta-da, this needs to be put aside. You'll also get a bit of backstage, I suppose, to see how everything looks here. Maybe we'll also set up better lighting in this terrarium, which is a bit dirty and needs to be cleaned, among other things. That's poop. There's a spider there that I believe can be found in French Guiana. It's not very venomous, but extremely fast. Here, as you can see, is the entrance to its nest, and the problem is that it's sitting right at the very bottom. So the idea is to take out its whole tube, and we'll see what happens. If it flies out, we're all going to freak out here. So what now, and where's the spider? Oh, the spider is inside. You can't see it because it's too dark, but that's actually good. There are old cobwebs and some messes here, so it needs a good cleaning. And now I think we'll do it like this. We'll take this out and just put the whole tube in with the spider. Although, on the other hand, I'd like to show him to you, but I don't know if it makes sense to chase the spider out, because if he starts running, well, but then again, what do I have to lose? Well, aha, he would have run, but he didn't start running, so it's not bad. The spider itself is just, well, it's beautiful. And I think it's about to molt, because it should have very, actually, I don't even know if it's a he or a she. He should have very, very purple chelicerae, but he doesn't, so I assume he's about to molt. And that's why he's sitting there all curled up, and I shamelessly chased him out. Also, his abdomen should be a bit greener than it is now. Let's do it without stressing him out so he doesn't run away from us. I don't think this will close, so we have to do it this way. Or maybe it will close after all. Alright, let's try. Okay, it closed easily. Nice. That's a good sign that it worked. That's done already, you know, so now comes the more pleasant part, which is me cleaning the terrarium, and we'll be back when it's more or less sorted out. Alright, after 20 minutes of intense work, I managed to get this terrarium to a relatively usable state. That means I changed the substrate, cleaned it, and rearranged it a bit so that the jumper has nice living conditions here. And now, pay attention. As you remember, at the beginning of the video I mentioned that this terrarium would be perfect for a jumper. There's a reason for that. Just look, this is the container he had before. And here is still a trace of her previous nest. One characteristic of jumping spiders is that they often, though not always, build their nests near the upper edge. And this terrarium has an extra piece of glass that prevents me from destroying the spider's nest if it builds it here when I open the terrarium. And if there's this piece of glass, then I won't destroy its nest. Since the sliding door is slightly forward, there's enough space for this jumping spider to nest here easily. Since we have a new home, it's time to put her in and see how she settles. Let's take her like this. Come on, come on, come on. She's on my finger. Now let's do a quick move. Maybe she'll go in, or maybe not. She'll jump. Ha! I knew it. She's good. She's hiding behind the bush, and that's it. The jumping spider is already in the new home. That's it. Let me know if you like this terrarium. Everything is here except the jumping spider, though you might not see it all. All these are artificial plants, including the tillandsia and the background, because I don't want live ones to die on me. Unfortunately, that's how it is. Let me know your thoughts on the spider, and if you liked the video. And I'll say goodbye to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!